Having just defeated Harald Hardrade, Harold Godwinson now faces another threat, this time from Normandy and William the Conqueror. William descended from Gongerolf, a man too large to ride a horse and too fierce to be allowed to stay in Norway. During peacetime, under the rule of Harald Hårfagre, or Fairhair, Gongerolf raided the Norwegian coast and was outlawed for it. In 911 he established himself in Normandy, modern-day France, so named for the Northmen who settled there. In 1066 the descendants of Vikings sailed across the Channel with an army claimed to be 10,000 strong. Half of that strength was infantry, the other half was half horse and half range troops. In comparison, out of Harold Godwinson's army, claimed to be around 7,000 strong, very few men were archers, slingers and crossbowmen, none were cavalry, and the vast majority were infantry. The infantry consisted both of household troops in the form of housecarls and levied fyrdmen. It would be up to the housecarls to be the backbone of the army, to rally around their leaders and provide an impenetrable shield wall for the enemy to break on, and then break them in close combat. At Hastings, the housecarls are famously displayed on the Bayeux-tapestry, wielding the Dane axe of Viking ancestry. While they certainly used this weapon to deadly effect, housecarls went into battle with a full complement of gear: javelin, sword, dagger, a single-handed axe, big round shield and the Dane axe. When javelins and axes were thrown, the shield was splintered and the battle hung in the balance. Then the Dane axe would allow the Anglo-Saxon elite to hack and hew any man or beast foolish enough to stand in their way. They had first marched to meet Harald Hardrade, now they had to march again to meet William. The infantry of the Anglo-Saxons had served them well against the Vikings at Stamford, as had their ability to catch the Vikings unprepared, essentially turning the tables on them. Moving with great haste and recruiting as he went, Harold hoped to catch William unaware and defeat him. He did, however, use 3 weeks moving from Stamford Bridge to Hastings. William's scouts were vigilant, and Harold's presence became known to William. Harold had the strength in infantry and knew this. He formed up on a hill, creating a massive shield wall. At positions of import he placed his most trusted commanders and their housecarls. The flanks of the shield wall was protected by difficult terrain, marsh and woodland. The wall itself was in a position of strength atop a hill. The Normans deployed archers in front, spears behind and cavalry to the rear. The archers advanced and let loose on the shield wall to little effect. The shields of the Anglo-Saxons and their position above the archers reduced the effectiveness of the hail of arrows considerably. The Norman infantry advanced, but met with the deadly and disruptive close-range throwing axes and javelins, and unable to rock the shield wall, they pulled back. The cavalry now charged to little avail. The spears of the Anglo-Saxons were long and aimed for both horse and rider. While the Anglo-Saxons were sure the strength of God was with them, the Normans started to waver. It began on the flanks on the left where the Bretons were posted. "William is dead!" The rumour killed courage, as surely as if it had been ripped from their hearts. All was lost. The wall was too strong, and William would not claim the throne. As the Bretons turned and ran, the housecarls watched from the hilltop. They had taken arrows, chargers and horses for hours, and when they saw an opening to take the field, they took it. As they ran after the Norman invaders, the Duke of Normandy revealed himself to his men, rallied them and turned on the pursuers. Surrounded, they made a stand, but were cut down. Up until now, the Anglo-Saxons had the advantage of position and morale. Seeing that his horse, his arrows and his foot were unable to break the wall, William set up a series of feigned assaults and retreats. The Anglo-Saxons took the bait, and the hillmen, eager to pursue what they thought were routing Normans, suddenly found themselves isolated, surrounded and cut down. As they fell, the shield wall now increasingly was made up of fyrdmen, unprofessional levies. The cavalry and archers of William showed their value, as they allowed the Normans tactical options not available to Harold. He lived and died by his infantry and his shield wall on the hill. William himself was in the thick of it, having to remount several times as his horses died beneath him. Harold led his men from the shield wall, even in danger. The marriage of Norse infantry traditions and Frankish cavalry and archery traditions proved the deadlier combination, and would set the standard for combined arms in the future. As the shield wall thinned out, leaders fell and the backbone of housecarls weakened. The Normans inflicted great slaughter on the Anglo-Saxons. Some say the sons of Harold died to arrows early in the battle, and that caused the housecarls to chase after the Normans. Some say they were found dead close to their father, the king. The exact way Harold died is not agreed on by historians, whether by sword and arrow to the eye or trampled by a horse. Died he did, and while his housecarls are said to have fought to the last, the field belonged to William, named both Bastard and Conqueror. William and his advisors were entirely aware that Harold was the anointed king, and perhaps the stray arrow to the eye became the official story because the truth would smear William the Conqueror, William the Bastard. Perhaps the weaver of the Bayeux-tapestry is making a private joke, turning a blind eye to the truth. Harold is claimed to have been hacked to pieces by 4 assailants, one of them William. Harold Godwinson, King of England, having saved his throne from one Viking claimant, fell by the hand of another. What if Harold didn't have to first deal with Harald Hårråde? What if the shield wall held? With William the Conqueror, the blood and bloodlines of the Vikings ran through England, giving rise to such kings as Richard the Lionhearted. For hundreds of years, on the throne of England sat Norman kings. While 1066 is regarded as the end of the Viking Age, that is not entirely true. The men and women that looked across the sea as explorers, settlers, raiders, warriors, merchants and farmers were now deeply embedded in history. Their longboats took them by sea to America, where they fought the natives, and from the far east and south they brought more silver than they knew what to do with. Rus they were called in Gardarike, a large part of which is modern-day Russia, and named after them, the men who row. Their influence on the English language is considerable, with more than 2% of words stemming from Norse languages, and more than 600 words being direct loanwords. In the end, Thor, Odin and Valhall fade into myth and legend, while Christ rises. With that, the prayer is finally answered. Our supreme and holy grace, protecting us and ours, deliver us, O God, from the savage race of Northmen, which lays waste to our lands.